We want to play for England, France, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then they wait.
Yes.
And then they keep waiting and keep waiting.
Yeah.
When they get to 25, 26, and they don't get a call up from England, then they call Nigeria.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So before we listen to the full clip of Mikel Obi that I just played and what led to this whole debate, let's first read the comment from this guy, Akatugba, who seems like a very bitter, pained and jealous soul, who was deliberately misunderstanding what Mikel was saying. I don't know why, but first let's read this. While athletes born and raised in Nigeria have been defecting to represent European countries in sports, John Obi Mikel argues that those born and raised in these prominent nations should choose Nigeria as the first option. It is a great option, but it doesn't align with reality. And then goes on to say, no footballer born in Europe who is good enough to play for a European country would choose an African country first. Perhaps one or two might, but for the majority, Africa is a second option. They all agree with me when I say this. That's why that's why Jose Pesero told me when I mentioned Noah Atobolu, the German goalkeeper with a Nigerian father, that it wouldn't prioritize Nigeria over Germany. And then he still goes on, referring to Mikel Obi, come and play for Nigeria, even though you really do not feel Nigerian yet, says an ex-Nigerian footballer who was born and raised in Nigeria but sounds very British and never spoke to Nigerian journalists except white journalists in his active days. Imagine he was born in Britain and could play for England. Tell me what he would have done. Now today, Yansh day back, second base, Jerry. Okay.
Talking about looking for better opportunities, Nigeria has a long list of athletes who, after representing Nigeria at major international sporting events, changed allegiance or switched allegiance to other nations, and their careers and their lot, their personal lives got better. Now let's talk about the guys who, after representing Nigeria, decided to seek better opportunities elsewhere. I start with Francis Obikwelu, 200-meter runner. You all know him, fantastic athlete. He represented Nigeria in I think in Sydney, but of course, because of lack of proper treatment, abandonment by the Sports Federation, internal bickerings here and there, he wanted something better and he switched allegiance to Portugal. And from that point on, he suddenly became a better athlete.
So clearly, is either he didn't really listen to Mikel, or he didn't understand what was said, or he has a personal vendetta, but there's something going on with this guy. In fact, the way he was making jest of, I'm trying to shame, say he has a British accent, and everything he's even saying makes it seem personal. But before we continue, let's first listen to the full clip of what Mikel actually said.
So much about players not representing their African root.
Yeah.
We've held meetings with these kids, with their parents, and said, listen, you are from Nigeria. Your dad is Nigerian. Your mom is Nigerian. Why don't you represent your fatherland, Nigeria? We want to play for England, France, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then they wait.
Yes.
And then they keep waiting and keep waiting.
Yeah.
When they get to 25, 26, and they don't get a call up from England, then they call Nigeria. We shouldn't be treated as second options. We are not second options. You should be proud of your African roots. You should be proud to represent your African country. I want the best players to play in Africa. So you rather make a decision and stand by it.
Yeah.
If you decide you want to play for England, stick to it. Sit and wait. If you don't get a call up, you don't get a call up. But don't wait until 29, 30, you've passed your best, whatever it is. Then you're, Nigerian FA, I'm ready to play for you now. Not so much about players not representing their African root.
Yeah.
Okay. Mikel didn't say don't represent the foreign nations. He said if you choose them, then stick with it and don't come begging for a Niger call up when the foreign nations don't call you up. He is 100% right. No one likes to be treated like a second option, and Nigeria should not call up such players. Okay. Mikel John Obi has done more for Nigeria than you can dream of. He gave sweat, tears, blood, and money. His comment was spot on. You can continue crying about him blanking you during his playing days, your choice. And that person said, fun fact is this guy is pained that Mikel doesn't grant his interview request. Nobody's saying they shouldn't choose England or France, Sha. Don't come knocking when these countries don't call you, especially when you've passed your prime. Somebody else said, imagine Akatugba using Mike's British accent to diss him. That's so weak a point, bro. What is very hard to comprehend from what Mikel said, he didn't say you shouldn't, but don't come back when the countries you waited for fails to call you. Nigerian can't be the second option. Maintain the same steez. I honestly never heard of this Akatugba guy, but he's definitely wrong here. He's trying to simplify the issue by comparing football to other sports, which is incomparable. Victor Moses and Lukman all got good to the point that they can receive a call from England. You don't have to sit and accept the reality of playing for England over Nigeria. We should continue preaching that Nigerian kids should come back and represent Nigeria. We want the best to play in Africa. Now, the conversation of how rubbish Nigerian system is a whole different conversation. He should rest. I stand with Mikel for not really giving them yeah audience and attention because it's all eye service and fake love. They still hate the fact that his podcast is the biggest in the world. Does this guy have access to Real Madrid pitch and Ancelotti? Mikel recently pulled guys like Usain Bolt and Ancelotti to his podcast. You Nigerian journalists are very entitled, and it is not by force for him to speak to you lot. At Omar Akatugba, no, now I service journalist you be. Why you not go interview players for Nigerian league? Why always trying to link with the famous Nigerian players? Go sit down one place. I like the fact that this person tagged him with his or her full chest. That is the spirit. Okay, so anybody with half a brain who listens to this Mikel's comment would hear very clearly. He was not saying don't wait to play for foreign countries. He was not saying don't choose foreign countries over Nigeria. What he's basically saying is the moment you have made your decision, stand by it. If you decide that, okay, I'm going to choose England over Nigeria, I'm going to choose France over Nigeria, stick with it. You know, stand by it. It's not like, okay, after you have waited and then you're almost 30, you are past your prime, you have waited for over 6 years, maybe even 10 years, and you've never been called up for the national team. You now decide, okay, let me fall back on Nigeria. Nigeria is the plan B. Let me call them, maybe they'll call me up. That's what he's saying. It is not a good look. Right? It is not a good look. Nigeria might have its issues. Yes, management issues, a lot of issues. But the fact still remains that your fatherland, your motherland should not be treated as a second option. Treat it as no option for you. Like the only option you want to play for is a foreign club. But the moment you do that, maintain that same energy. If it happens that they now did not call you, it should be fine by you. Maintain that same energy. But do not expect that after you have waited until you have passed your prime years, after you have waited for England or France until you have passed your prime years, you now want to be picked up by Nigeria. You are now calling Nigeria now whether they can now pick you up after you have wasted the years that you could have even been much more useful for the country. That is what he's saying here. And it makes sense. So he's not saying don't choose them, but he's saying if you decide to choose them, maintain that energy to the end. You guys know that I have made a video on this before. I'm going to put it up here right now on the screen. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. It was a video I made on Ademola Lookman when he made that historic hat-trick, and then people were coming and saying what's his name of this coach was coming and saying Ademola Lookman should have waited. If he had waited, England would have called him instead. Crouch, a former English player, believes he could have played for England if he had been patient. Instead of playing for Nigeria. So the only reason why he did not play for England is because he was not patient enough to wait. If he had waited instead of playing for Nigeria, he would have been selected to play for England. And it was so funny. Let me just insert part of the video for you guys here, but you can still go check out the full one. Patient. What have you done with them? Gabriel Agbolaho was another player who turned down Nigeria while perhaps waiting for England. What happened? I'm sure he's regretting it. What some of these players don't realize is that a country like England will give you a couple of games which will render you ineligible to play for any other country, then dump you. As the grass is rarely greener than the green and white. Tamari and Abraham are the latest Anglo-Nigerians to find out that picking England over Nigeria does not necessarily end well, even though it always seems like the right decision at the time. John Fashanu was among the first to find out, having opted for England over Nigeria in his prime years, only to feature in 2 games, and has been wailing about his regrets to anyone who would listen ever since. Gabriel Agbolaho also went that route and was only good for 3 games despite enjoying a reasonably successful career spanning 12 years. And that's why I had to resign at the age of 32 unfulfilled, unfortunately. I am the one adding that. It's not in the article. Continuation says John Salako, Ugo Ehiogo, Carlton Cole, Dele Ali, Jordan Ibe are some notable examples of players who went into international limbo after choosing to represent England over Nigeria. With that wealth of examples, it was surprising that both Abraham and Tomori chose to represent England where the odds are stacked against them. As unappealing as the Nigerian football scene may seem compared to England, it has been statistically proven that players are more likely to be successful with the Super Eagles than the Three Lions. Alex Iwobi, Victor Moses, Dixon Etuhu, Sheyi Olofinjano, Danny Shitu, Semi Ajayi, and Ademola Lookman are among the more notable players who realized that early enough. Tomori and Abraham have already turned down first-class Nigerian citizenship to be second-class citizens of England. But it's more imperative for other players in similar situations to not make the same mistake. Tammy Abraham was saying, yes, Nigeria did try to roll out the red carpet, and it was flattering, but I was pretty set on England. I see myself as being a long-term England player. That is where my main focus is, and I'm 100% focused on trying to get into that team. Unfortunately, the team or the ones who are in charge of picking were not focused on you, Tammy. That is the irony, isn't it? That Nigeria rolled out the red carpet. They gave him VIP treatments, but he was not interested in that. Just as Tunde Young said that. And to not even be selected for the World Cup after saying something like this, is truly... Anyway, in any case, Mikel Obi is not saying don't choose whatever country you decide to play for. You can have your own personal reasons for wanting to do that. Maybe you are thinking about yourself first and what benefits you first, and that is fine. But all he's saying is Nigeria is not the dumping ground for players that have passed their prime years while they were waiting for the club they wanted. So Nigeria is not the second option. Nigeria is not this trash can to now decide to dispose yourself in. That is what he's saying, okay? So this Akatugba, may you find healing, bro. You sound really pained. Anyways, that's it for this video, guys. Don't forget to like the video and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.